In today's episode, Nancy and I talk about something you may or may not have heard of before. We talk about shape-shifting. And we talk about it in a way that I think all of you will find fascinating, exciting, and hopeful.
Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Hello.
Good morning, Nancy.
How are you?
I'm doing really well.
Awesome. Awesome. We're excited to talk. Before we do, I'll set the intention so that we can just
get right into it.
Launch right into it. All right. So we set our intention to feel upliftment and positivity and hope and love. And in our feeling that and sharing it together as friends, we invite everyone else to share it as well. And so it is.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Shall
Are
I
you
say
ready?
it? Shall I say it?
Say it, yes.
Shapeshifter Day. We're going to talk about shape-shifting. So last night, Aileen texted me and she says, let's talk about shape-shifting. And I'm like, okay. And then I got busy. And so I said, I'll look into it. I know my exposure to it. But I said, I want to look it up. So then this morning I'm in my home getting ready to leave, and Wi-Fi, all of a sudden I look shapeshifter, Wi-Fi doesn't work in my house. It's been working all morning.
Right.
And I'm still getting the song I'm playing on Dropbox, but I'm not able to search on Shapeshifter. So I'll do it when I'm in the car driving. So as I leave the driveway, I put it on cellular Shapeshifter. Nothing. And again, I'm getting my music that's streaming, but I'm getting nothing on Shapeshifting. So, as always, I think the universe just wants to surprise and delight me. So, Lee, can tell me what you had in mind with it, and I can share my experiences with it.
Yes. So, with everything we've been talking about, energy, everything is frequency. It's all vibration. And so we talk about and we have formed it into a story, right? And it's individual stories, collective stories, and what we're trying to do now is change the story. Well, we're not trying, we're doing it. We're changing the story, right? So that's all this hard work.
The story is changing, and are we catching up with the energy of the change? I guess.
Yeah, well, we're making it change. Remember, it's a collective.
Yes.
So collective, we chose the way it used to be.
Yep.
Now, through all this work we've been doing, you think about yoga, meditation, all thoughts become things, Abraham Hicks, manifestations, we create our own reality, physics. This has all been coming together, and it's globally happening.
It is.
It's the one thing that brings us together as a humanity across. Every culture has some type of connection
and
to this.
Accelerated because of the position of the planets, because of the astrological phenomena going on out there.
Right. It's all connected. It's in unison, in synergy, right? So it's okay. And then when we listen to other people talking on YouTube and other platforms, it's and they're talking, potentially, quite probably, to other beings from other planets or dimensions or whatever, right? Yeah. So there's this understanding that this is all happening and we're in agreement, whatever our beings are that have chosen to be called earthlings or whatever, right? So to that reality, right? The word reality, reality is our choice to what we're going to focus on. Okay. And then we say that's our reality.
Right.
Right. And so we have a collective conscious reality and agreement of how we have babies and how things look and all of that, right? How we're going to do, but with that said, each country has its own reality.
Right.
Look at all the different religions out there. Look at the way people run their governments or whatever. It's all different.
Yeah.
It's all different. So we have freedom, and that's what we're trying to get to. We don't have to keep perpetuating the story. And so to that, which is why I wanted to talk about shape-shifting, because I've had a couple of experiences, and what I now love but didn't love in the beginning is things would happen to me, things would come to me, totally freak me out.
Yes.
And then I would think, ponder it, think about it until I would come up with a theory. And then I have a very good friend who reads books. She loves books. So once I came to a conclusion, then I felt courageous enough to, I mean, she's great, she would never have judged me, but I would call her or stop by her house and I'd say, this thing happened, this is what I think it was. And she'd say, oh yeah, and she'd reach up, I mean, her whole house is books. She'd reach up, take out a book, and read it. So and that was very confirming.
Tell us about one of these things.
All right, well, so the shape-shifting.
Okay. Do you want to define it first, or do you want to just launch into it?
Yeah, well, let's tell stories, because I think that's the best way to learn, honestly, because then you can be sure, as opposed to reading something and then having it happen and think, did I make that up? Did that really happen? Or did I want it to happen? You know, all that. Yeah. So my first experience with shape-shifting, I had nothing, well, I shouldn't say I had nothing, I had no awareness of it. And this had started me thinking about, okay, this could be a thing. You know, I probably saw it places, read it, and I was like, whatever, because we've talked before about being skeptics. It's important to be a skeptic. So I was sitting across from someone that I had lunch with probably once a month, or maybe more. And he and I didn't always see eye to eye. So that gives there some credibility to this, because this isn't somebody that would say something to me to impress me or whatever, you know. So we're eating lunch, it's just across a table with each other, and he looks up at me and he has this look on his face, like, you know, and I'm thinking, well, this is what I'm like, well, I mean, that is like more than there's just crap on my face, because there's always food on my, you know, so this is weird. And then he finally said it, and I could see he was sort of like he'd almost seen it go. His face was, and he looked at me and he said, you don't look like you. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe it's the light, like what's he talking about? Now it was in the, more in the summertime, when my skin can get very dark from the sun, you know, relative, right? Olive, the Italian gets, so I thought, okay. And I said to him, well, I'm, you know, my skin gets darker in the, when I get a lot of sun in the summer. And I said, maybe that's it. Yeah. He said, that's not it. And then he said, you look Indian, like from India. And I still was sticking with well, right, it's probably because my skin gets, I've been out a lot this year, so I really, and he said, no. He said, your face, your features are different. And I'm just sitting there eating my sandwich. Yeah. And he said, you look like a woman from India. Oh, that's. And I just said, okay. And that was true. And I was kind of like, did we just wait till it goes away? Like, I didn't feel anything different. I didn't have a different thought. Yeah. I was aware of channeling, of myself channeling. Yeah. I was aware of being a medium. I was aware of different entities, people, whatever, around me, died. I didn't feel a thing. I just was eating lunch. Yeah. So that was the first time it happened to me. And so that's why I like, well, not that I like to do it this way, but this is the way all these things came to me. They would just happen. Yeah. And again, there was so much credibility in this moment of this person who I knew would never have said that for any like artificial reason.
So what would be the reason that you would shift? Because you were agitated? You said you didn't see eye to eye? Or like, what is the purpose? What happens when that phenomena occurs? Is it triggered by something?
That's a great question. So I can track it by saying a couple more things that have happened in that way. So I was going to help out and do Vision Quest with my Nooksack friend in the Pacific Northwest on Mount Rainier. And the night before everyone else was going to arrive, one young adult did arrive early the night before. And she and I were out at a fire. We had the fire, and she's facing me, and I'm facing her. We're talking. It's dark, a little rainy. And she has that look on her face. And I'm thinking, I know that look. Yeah. What is happening? Yeah. And she looked and she said, you look like a big spider.
Oh!
Well, I love spiders.
Okay.
And so then
I pulled the spider totem this morning, of course.
You did? Of course you did.
I'm terrified of spiders. But anyway, go ahead. Yep.
So she looked at me and she said, you look like a spider. She said, you look like like a goddess spider woman. And I just thought, okay, that's great. And if this is like what needs to happen, that's great. Okay. She was wonderful, was lovely, and we have a connection about that. And by the way, in Vision Quest, spiders it was the weird, all over. I got in my car at one point to run into town, and a spider had made a web all over my seat. And I was like, this is amazing.
That was the theme of
that was apparently
that was the animal
something,
totem of
yeah,
that,
something. Yeah. And then I was visiting a friend, and he and I were talking, and we were just looking at each other, chatting away. I hadn't seen him for years. And he looked at me, and the look, it's a look that people, it's the same look people give.
It's probably terror.
Yeah,
right?
It's this sort of like, what is happening, you know?
My friend is morphing in front of me.
Exactly. They're like,
maybe they're terrified, maybe.
There's weird things that happen with her, but this is beyond, this is beyond. So he looked, he was very calm, and we were probably as close as you and I are sitting, and he looked and he said, your face changed. And again, I'm thinking, at this point, I'm thinking, oh my God, did it like really, really change? Or is it a lighting? Or I mean, do I look different than when he saw me? Like, what's happening? Again, I didn't feel a thing. And he said, you look like a really good friend of mine who died.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool.
A male.
Okay.
And he was like, you look just, I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Right? Then I was with a client, and this is the first time it happened. I didn't feel anything, but the second time I did. So I was with a client, and we're talking and about her mother-in-law who had died. And then she looked at me, and I saw the look, and I said to her, I said, just at this point, I'm fit, you know, something.
Did I just change?
Right, that's what I said. I said, does my face look different to you? She said, yes. I said, what do I look like? And she said, you look like my ex-mother-in-law. I said, okay, all right.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so then another session happened with her, like down the road a little ways. This one was interesting in the sense that I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden I felt something. For the first time from all these episodes, I could feel my cheeks were kind of, something was happening. My cheeks were what I felt. And then I looked at her, and I said, is my face changing now? And she said, yes. I said, are my cheeks like out to here? And she said, yes. I said, who is this? She said, that's my mother-in-law. I said, so her face. And so I could kind of do this, like, is this her face? Is this, even though my skin, but I could feel it.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, and she said, yes, yes. Okay. So then over the years, on occasion, doesn't have a lot to me, I can sometimes feel it. There's also times when I can't. I've had clients lying on the table looking up and saying, oh, you look like this, or you look like this.
So is this a phenomena that, is everybody a shapeshifter? Because my quick experience with the shapeshifting was when I was told by first a psychic gal, medium, and then Kimmy got us to this heavy-hitting shaman dude, like hard to get in, expensive, and he told me I'm a shapeshifter. But both of them said it in the context of you're from a planet and the planet is shapeshifter. So I was told I was shapeshifter, and then a couple of times in conversations with Kimmy, she'd go, "You're shifting," and I'm like, "Okay, I have no idea." More than once I've shifted into like big cat, according to Kim.
Oh.
And it's mostly been Kimmy who is the one who's been saying, "You're shifting."
Yeah, and you look like a cat.
And I turn into a big cat, like a big, tiger sort of thing. So I never thought much of it. And then, of course, like 3 days before you said, let's talk about shapeshifting, in one of my cues comes a video on shapeshifting, which of course I couldn't summon today. But I was thoroughly offended by it because it was villainizing shapeshifting. It was saying shapeshifting are bad animals, and it had footage of celebrities in interviews, and then they zoomed in on the celebrities' eyes, and their eyes went into sort of like a snake-like, or they were accusing these celebrities of being evil lizard people, and see how their eyes turned from round pupils to slits. And I was just kind of like thoroughly offended because I thought shapeshifting was just just maybe
It's
a type of
energy.
being, or
Remember, it's all just energy.
So now that we have these stories, though, let us try to pull it into what is it? What is it? Is it something everybody has or does?
I think we can, because we're all energetic beings. It's a frequency. So there's an agreement, again, to the collective. And to share a little bit about that thought, there are experiences, and many recorded experiences, of children remembering their other stories, how they got here, past lives. Like these little children who are just randomly like, whoop, saying things. And we kind of have, in conversation, across the board, this sense or an agreement that children remember where they came from, maybe other lives, other dimensions. And then by the time they're 4 or 5, they've been imprinted to this reality. So they're not going to talk about it so much. So we think about imaginary friends or things like that. Now, I've had really wonderful experiences where parents have been able to say to me, so-and-so saying that they're seeing this person. And then we track it, and it turns out it was an uncle, or it turns who had died or whatever. So it's like, oh no, there's a good chance that these imaginary friends are not imaginary. They're dead people, people from past, whatever. So what's happening more and more is that the parents, the new parents of children, and more dynamic children are coming more and more ready to hold on to all this and not forget, not go to sleep.
They're coming in already.
They're coming in strong. They're going to talk about these connections for the rest of their lives. And the parents are super cool with it. So they're not trying to shut it down. So we have children that are, it's a great agreement. Children are ready to be multisensory, multidimensional, and aware, and stay with it. And parents are like, yes. I have parents women who come pregnant, and they want to know if I can pick up what their baby was doing. Is the baby consciousness there or not? Like, what's going on? I just had a grandmother the other day. I hadn't seen her in a while, and she was talking to me, and she was talking about the grandkids, and all of her children had come to me to read and check out the karma and see what we could shift, get those babies ready, get everybody ready for the arrival of this being. And she said, she listed off all the grandkids. She said, that's exactly what you said they were going to be like. This is exactly like you said. And so it was fun. We had a lot of fun laughing about it and just talking about how fun that was. So
how does that, let's pull that back into the shape-shifting theme.
So I can pick, so think about this. There's a baby that's like an embryo or a fetus, and at any point during that development, I can understand and translate the vibration of the consciousness that's going to be inhabiting that body.
Okay.
Right?
That vessel.
So that energy exists way bigger and way beyond, and I can pick up, again, it sounds weird. It's the best I can say. This is what I think I'm doing, right? So I'm picking up that this baby was a banker, and so he might come and do this and this and this. And I picked that up about a boy the other day. I said, and I tracked this thing about him, and the mother said that he is constantly saying money, 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 and he brings money to bed with him.
I don't need a teddy bear, I need a 50.
Money, 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 money. It's like, well, let's heal that issue. Money, 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 money. Or not. Like, let it go loose. What are the winning numbers? What do we invest in, kid? So, so everything is vibration. As the beings that we are, we're vibration. And the more we understand we're vibration and we're not limited to this shape, nor to this collective reality that we said is reality, it shifts. We can shift it, including our faces. So here's another thing to pull into this conversation. Over the years, I've discovered that when I see a quote-unquote dead person, they don't always look, and don't usually look like they looked the moment they died.
Sure.
Because they don't want to present that way.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm translating a vibration. And I explain that as saying, if you drive by Channel 5 on 128, you don't see all the television shows coming out, but they're coming out. The vibration of the news.
In the air.
The vibration of the show, the data is in the air, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
Some of us can for whatever reason, and with practice too, right?
Practice. Yeah.
So when a dead person is hanging out because they want to chat with someone who's with me, right? They don't present like, they just don't.
Yeah.
For me. I had a man once who presented in his Army uniform as a young man, and his daughter had a picture of him in her wallet.
So here's what I'm feeling as you're explaining the concept. So the phenomena of energy and souls, which are the energy specific to this person, but also tied to the collective, inhabit a vessel, but maybe now, because of the expansiveness that we're going through, we are constantly creating, and maybe now we're exploring creating the vessel itself.
So I would say we didn't begin by inhabiting the vessel, because it sort of sounds like in that way the consciousness comes into like a vase. No, this isn't a vase. We created this out of clay. We created this ourselves.
So when a baby comes out of utero, he's not in a vessel? Like the soul is not in that?
No, remember we're bringing heaven and earth together?
Yes.
So it's morphed. It's like clay. So it's a part of it all together. It's a unity. It's a unit. So this being is like, okay, I'm to experience here, I'm going to slow down and shift my vibration.
Yep, to make a more dense form.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Right. You got it. And so sometimes I've seen, and I had a personal experience with myself, what we left when we died, we bring that in. We can bring that imprint in if we don't like work on it before we get here.
The Akash.
Yes. So I've seen people who I'm like, oh, look at this interesting thing on their head. And then I track it, and it's like, oh, they got hit in the head as a knight on a horse, and that's why this is here. Oh, okay. Or you can see kind of a continuation of people having symptoms or injuries or surgeries. Okay. And we can go back in time. We can time travel and clean that up so it doesn't happen anymore. But that's because it's a vibration. Right. So we're actually shape-shifting someone's form. Like, again, remember, it's like clay. So that's why we have the power to shift to be healthy. We can change our livers and our hearts. We can do all of that because we're together. We're not in it, and it's like...
So you just took my next question. You just answered it already, which was, so, there's this phenomenon of shape-shifting. How can we play with it here in this time-space reality for... Even, well, it could be just kind of fun, having a fun conversation with your friend while you're, it's almost like I'm seeing like Harry Potter when that character Tonks would sit at the dinner table and just do make her face into funny things to make people laugh.
Yes.
So you could just like play with it because it's a creative expression. Or you're also saying use that shape-shifting ability to heal, remove a tumor.
Yes, exactly. It's the same concept.
Awesome.
Perfect. Okay. Right. So we're shifting the shape.
Okay.
And so, like, why did mine shift when I looked at this guy across from the table? There are a couple reasons. Maybe because I tend to be more pliable for whatever reason.
Well, I think when you engage with somebody, like I just said, when I engage with somebody, I become just totally present because I want. And then maybe in that alignment, your inner being was like, let's play.
Or like this, either I could have been her, that could have just been another me in a past life wanting to see him because maybe I had a relationship with him in a past life, right? It could have been another being who had a relationship with him in a parallel existence and wanted to just like show him like, hey, there's so many... That's
We're out there again.
There are so many reasons that could have happened. We obviously, it's easy to tell the woman whose mother-in-law had died, like, okay, cool, So this brings us to this concept. A drop of water falling in the ocean. You can't find it.
Right.
It's the ocean.
Right.
We just assume we're separate, but we're not.
Right.
I say to people, imagine putting a white picket fence between you and I right now, like this is me, I'm separate from you, this is my land, right? You have your land, I have my land. But guess what? You don't have to go down that far to see the land isn't separate.
Yeah.
I'm like spitting that. The land isn't separate. We're not separate.
Good analogy.
We just say we are by, I'll put this sweater on. That means I'm separate from you, but we're not.
Gotcha.
And so shape shifting, my face or anything about me is together with the collective.
Okay.
It's all just energy.
Love it. Let's do a time check. Gabriella Bella, where are we at?
Over 20.
A little over 20. Okay, so we can take our time wrapping up. We can take our time wrapping up today.
Yeah. So what do you think about, like, if you really take yourself down to the core truth of just being a vibration of energy that has chosen to come here, and in order to be here, you're like, okay, I'll sign up for this form I'm going to be, and I'll come through, as a baby through this story. Yeah. That's all we did. I mean, we could be here. Could we just be here? Sure, why not? If that was the collective story.
If that was the collective story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or if I chose to really master my interdimensionality and focus on a reality where that is real, then I could be in that reality.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I think as a collective, we're going to see more shifting. Now, people, and you and I have talked about this, people think things are evil,
right? So this,
if they don't know it.
Exactly. And so I think what I think we try to do is we talk about these crazy concepts, and then we try to bring them down into, is there any way I could use this or play with this? And I think that, yes, one of the values in this discussion, other than just exploring this very cool, very out there concept, is it's not evil.
Correct.
Right? Because here I am, I stumble across 3 days ago, before you say, let's talk about shapeshifting, that people are misusing it, calling shapeshifting, saying it's when an evil being inhabits this form and is hiding in it. And so I much prefer, and like I said, I took offense to that because I have been called an alien from shapeshifter planning more than once. So I rather prefer, I'm just playing with the energy, and it's becoming a little more easier. It's becoming easier to do, and it's becoming a little more because it's becoming a little more accepted, and it's becoming a little more obvious. I don't know. That's
right. And I think we all might be shifting, shape shifting. I was thinking the other day, because I had an experience that had me think, okay, how can I sort of translate that? Because if we're moving into newness, everything's new, and we don't have a way to figure it out yet. So you have to really stretch. We have to really stretch everything. So I had an interesting random, they're just usually random for me, experience where I was driving. I was on Nantucket driving to my office. And all of a sudden, I saw and felt this energy that was me, but it was out here. And it was crystal and beautiful and translucent. And I was like, oh, wow. That's the thing? That feels like that's where I'm going. But I haven't disappeared.
Right.
I'm still there, and I couldn't recognize any particular shape. So then my brain went to okay, we have talked about a snake growing out of its skin and leaving its skin, and it has another skin on it. And a lobster, I remember seeing that. I was like, what? Lobsters do that too, right? Yeah. So they're like, oh, we've outgrown this and we have to get bigger and expand. Now they have had a hard shell on them again. They keep recreating the same form.
Yes.
Get ready for this.
Yeah.
I do not think we're creating the same form.
No, I agree. And it's funny you said you saw a crystal, because the folks that I listen to say we are shifting from carbon to crystal to move into this new paradigm of New Earth, to be able to be more transitory in the elder dimensions. And so yes, it is my understanding that our bodies are changing from carbon to crystal. And at some point I was feeling these random pains in my body.
Yes.
And then sure enough, I stumble on a lecture that says, you might be experiencing random sensations and pains, it's because very strongly at this point in time, we are making a big change to the crystalline form, to the crystal, and becoming more connected to the crystalline grid, which is all the data, which has all the data in that grid.
Yes.
And we're, like you said, we're like kind of in the ocean of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're not expanding to be
Right.
like in this really solid. Now we're still going to be able to manifest and work with we're going to be able to work with any vibration we want to work with, as opposed to being limited into thinking we only are working with these particular elements and dimensions and vibrations.
So I'd say as we wrap up then, lessons for the week would be a little more open-minded, a little less boundary-based in our conceptual thinking. What do you
Right. I would say, step away from this whole weird, evil, good thing that's going on. Just no, let it go.
Yeah.
Be open, and yes, maybe your heart might skip a beat when something unusual happens. Stay with it, because chances are lots of people are talking about it. You're not the only one. I do think every cell has its own consciousness in our body, and each cell is purging and purifying in order to have an entire form of some kind that goes, because we're not, it's not like we're leaving the planet. We are shifting so that, all the illness, all of this stuff.
Out of each cell, and then out of that conglomerate of cells, so to speak. Awesome.
Yeah.
And as always, until next week, more to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.